exactly 1 month since Russia invaded Ukraine, putting distortion on the relative peace and economic stability in the region, while other countries in the West have not engaged Russia and the war in Ukraine. They've not been directly engaged in it, but it seems that economies are actually at war following the economic sanctions and the repercussion on not just European countries or the UK or the US, but every country, including Nigeria. This is to show that the world is one global village. Everything and everyone is connected. Well, Russia and Ukraine produce about 30% of the world's wheat consumption, and Russia supplies about 45% of gas required by European countries. That's why we've been hearing a lot about wheat and gas and, of course, other commodities at this time. But let's see how economic components have responded in this 1 month of war. We have Oluwole Adeyeye. He is a research associate with Pan-African Capital Holdings. He joins me now for this conversation. Hi, Oluwole. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good to have you. So 1 month after the war, and we see, I mean, one of the most volatile movements has been in the oil space. So we see that crude oil went from being about $99. This morning it was above $120. And of course, this comes at a price.
Yeah, I think for me, we actually we need to look at the impact on Nigerian economy, and we have to look at the mixed impact on the Nigerian economy. One has to do with positive impact, and also the second has to do with negative impact. When we look at the positive impact, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the price of crude oil has actually increased by 22% to about $120 per barrel as at yesterday, like you said. This is actually good news for Nigeria.
Okay.
This is actually good news for Nigerian economy. And then
is it really good news for Nigerian economy when we cannot even meet up with our quota?
Yeah, I'm actually talking in terms of price now. In terms of price, what we actually see is that Nigeria will benefit in terms of increase in oil revenue, and also it's really going to have impact.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if we're going to benefit from oil revenue, we have to be able to have the crude to sell. But our quota has been dropping, our production has been dropping.
I think Tony Elumelu actually mentioned something about the oil theft recently in Nigeria. So I think government is actually working on that part for me. And then when we look at the price, you know, the revenue has to do with price and also the quantity. When we look at the volume and the price, in a way, the price should be able to actually override the lower reduction in price, because the price is currently trading at $120 per barrel. And the last time we actually achieved over $100 per barrel, that was in 2014, when we actually crossed the $100 per barrel threshold. Now, there is an impact on foreign reserve, and also there is an impact on oil revenue. Then when we look at the oil sector is currently in recession now. Then when we look at the increase in the oil price, the fact is that the oil sector may likely exceed recession in 2022.
What do you mean by the oil sector is in recession?
The oil sector actually declined persistently in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter of 2021. So oil sector is currently in recession. Why not?
Are we still in recession with prices hitting 120 and above?
Yes. The oil sector is actually in recession. The only sector that is not in recession is actually the non-oil sector, which has been helping the economy to actually grow in the past few quarters. And then when we have to look at the negative impact of this Russian and Ukraine crisis on our economy. Nigeria actually imports refined petroleum products from other countries. And what it means is that the landing cost of these refined products have increased. When you go to the market, you see the increase in the price of PMS, also increase in the price of AGO, which is diesel, the increase in the price of gas, and also kerosene. but most people are not really feeling the impact of the increase on PMS because government actually subsidizes this. One thing is that you cannot eat your cake and have it. It's not possible. So which means that the government will have to pay higher subsidy for PMS, which is not good for us. And when we look at the price of diesel, the price of diesel has increased as high as 800 naira per litre. This is also not good for our economy because most manufacturing companies will have to pay more to actually power their plants and also to power their generator. I mean, most companies as well. So the effect on this would be on input cost generally, which will bounce back on inflation. So for me, I think we may likely see increase in inflation going forward. And that is just one part of inflation. We have another part of inflation, which actually has to do with imported inflation. The price of goods has actually increased globally. The price of wheat has increased by about 20% since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And what it means is that it has affected other grain prices as well. The price of corn has actually increased significantly.
And then, you know, when the prices increase, it doesn't just end with the increase in the price. It also affects, you know, the derivatives, the products that are derived, you know, from that.
Nigeria actually depends so much on wheat because you can actually get noodle, you can get pasta, you can get bread, and also you can get flour from wheat. And since Russia and Ukraine actually account for about 29% of the world's of the global total wheat, what it means is that because of the crisis in Ukraine and Russia, so the supply has dropped.
Why can't we produce our own wheat?
I think we need to give the Apex Bank some credit for their intervention in various sectors. Even before the pandemic, they actually did well. We have some intervention programs in different sectors of the economy, which some companies actually tap into that. And one of those companies is actually Flour Mills of Nigeria. They've been able to embark on backward integration, which means that they now have a line of local wheat production, which is actually good for economy. So I think in terms of domestic production, we actually need to give some credit to the CBN for that, and also to fiscal authority. They've actually done fine. And that is why we did not really have a negative impact like that during the COVID-19, because we were actually a little bit self-sufficiency in some grain, like rice. We had lake rice then. So
no, we don't have it anymore.
Yeah, we don't really have it. I can't say we don't have it anymore because I don't have any data regarding that. But I think if what this actually shows is that it actually creates a lot of opportunities for a lot of domestic players to actually invest in wheat production, in corn production.
When you say opportunity for local wheat players, what do you think is stopping them? I mean, we're talking now about boosting the non-oil exports, and of course, the agro sector is a major part of that. Yes. But we have some factors that seems to be hindering a faster movement in that area. You have the issue of the movement, logistics, transportation.
Insecurity as well.
Insecurity, middlemen. So I guess sometimes it sounds easier to say, oh, we need local players to go into the wheat scene, since it's a major one at this time. But really getting people to go in there is another conversation.
Yeah, I think you are right. When you are looking at the insecurity in the country, particularly in the food-producing states in the country. But when you look at over the past few months, there is some relative calmness in food-producing states in terms of insecurity for now. So I think what I actually think is that we can't say because there is insecurity, there is logistic problem. So I think what I will say is that government actually needs to work on infrastructure in the country to actually support the growth of this particular business. But what I actually see is a lot of opportunities. You can see Dangote doing fine in terms of the new fertilizer plant.
So you say that from your perspective that things seem to be calmer now when we talk about food security. So that means you agree with the CBN governor that in a short while we should see a tapering of food inflation. Do you see food inflation tapering soon?
Like what is really going to happen, I've mentioned it earlier, like we can't be looking at food inflation from the supply side only. We also have to look at the imported inflation. Nigeria is actually import-dependent country, which means that we depend a lot on raw material from other countries. And the prices of this raw material and some finished products from other countries have actually increased due to increase in the price of energy. So what it means is that the price of input has increased generally, and the price of some finished goods that we are getting from UK, US, and some other countries have increased.
How much impact is the hike in interest rate of the US? How much impact has it had on that?
Actually, for now, before the Russia and Ukraine crisis, it was supposed to have significant impact. But because of the crisis, it may not really have significant
So you're
impact.
saying that the war in Ukraine has more impact now?
Has more impact
over
now because
inflation and more than the interest rates and the inflation.
Now, when you look at the inflation figure for last month for US, inflation rate is about 7.9%, which is the highest since 1982.
UK too is the highest in 30 years.
In 30 years. So what it means is that they are now battling with inflation because of the shortage. So increasing the Fed rate by 25 basis point may not really solve the the problem for now. So I think what is really going to solve the problem is for Ukraine and Russia to actually put an end to the war. So
more like Russia, you mean? But how do you see Nigeria hedging against all of this? Is there a way to protect ourselves?
Yeah,
as a country?
I think for me, it's actually difficult. It's extremely difficult for Nigeria to actually hedge. The fact is that we are not, in terms of self-sufficiency in food production and in production of some other things, we are not really self-sufficient, which is not really good for us. So I think we have learned a lesson from this, which actually means that we need to actually develop our own economy as well, so that we can encourage export to other
because I wanted to ask you, what lessons, apart from Nigeria, what lessons do you think the world can learn from this 1 month into the war? What lessons?
I think what lesson we can actually learn is that when we have capacity to do some certain things, we should do it. Let me focus on Nigeria. Nigeria actually, they produce crude oil within the country. But unfortunately, we have to
import refined
petroleum products, which is not really so good for us, because we can actually have refinery within the country.
We do have refineries, just that they're not functioning.
So, which means that if we cannot export our crude oil to other countries to go and refine and import back, then we not be able to do anything at the end of the day. So that is a lesson for Nigeria. And for Egypt, which actually imports...
Egypt seems to be in a dire situation now, right? They're reaching out to IMF for help.
Yeah, actually, Egypt imports about 70% of their wheat imports actually come from Ukraine. And Egypt actually depends so much on wheat. So what it means is that there will be food shortage in Egypt. And
their bread is already being subsidized. That's a fixed price now.
So what we should be expecting in Egypt is probably high inflation rate in Egypt. And also, we are already seeing the impact in Nigeria as well. The price of bread has increased by about 20% in the market. So I just feel like what we need to do, whether US, whether UK, whether Nigeria, whether Egypt, we actually need to have some level of self-sufficiency if we have the capacity to actually do so.
Doesn't that undermine the issue of being a global village? The world is supposed to be a global village, interdepending on each other.
Yeah, I got your point. I meant something about the capacity. When you have the capacity to do some certain things, like we don't really have that capacity to produce some certain crop in Nigeria. So in that case, we can actually get it from other country. But we have the capacity to produce wheat and also to refine our crude oil within the economy.
All right. Thank you so much, Oluwole Adeyeye, Research Associate with Pan-African Capital Holdings. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Great.
Yeah.